Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
We're live.
We were a little uncertain whether we were live because the spinning wheel came up, but it looks like we're live.
Okay.
So happy Tuesday morning. Happy day 12 of the 30-day March Mindfulness Challenge. We hope that you're getting a lot of benefit from it. You're enjoying your experience with us. We'd love to hear from you. So if you want to wave, if you want to comment, feel free to do so. This morning, Stephanie's going to be leading us through a guided practice. And hi, Sarah. Good morning. So why don't we get started?
Yeah, let's get
something
started.
to start with.
So why don't we start by sitting back in our chair with our feet on the floor, or if you're laying down, you can lay down, and why don't we close our eyes? Let's start by bringing our attention to our breath. With some nice slow inhales and exhales. Let's start to notice the present moment as we breathe in deeply and sit in our chair in this moment. Our breath will guide us today. Letting go of any stress, challenges that you had this morning. Let's just breathe in deep to let any of that go. When we're breathing in, maybe you're noticing on that deep inhale breath that you are drawing in your breath, expanding your belly. And maybe you could take an extra little inhale at the end just to fully expand into our belly. On that deep inhale, as you expand your breath and expand your belly, just notice what it feels like when you let that go. On that exhale, and notice as the tension releases from your body and we sink deeper and deeper into our chair or on the ground in the present moment. As we focus on our breath, maybe you become lost in your thoughts. Let's just notice this and bring our awareness back to the present moment, back to our breath. Breathing in and out. As we continue to breathe here in this moment, maybe you notice another part of your body that's starting to soften. Maybe it's your face, letting go of any tension that you're holding on to as we breathe. As we sink deeper and deeper into our practice and into this moment, let's allow this to guide us through our day. This sense of calmness and relaxation, and knowing that we always have time to come back to our breath to help us refocus. Breathing in and out. At any point you become distracted by a thought, emotion, or something you hear in your surroundings, let's just notice it and bring our attention and awareness back to our breath. On our next in-breath, I want you to focus on the word calm. As you're breathing in, say to yourself, calm. And on the out-breath, let go of any tension or thought that is not serving you well. Again, breathing in calm. And letting go of any tension that is still sitting with you. As you sit here in this moment, fully relaxed, ready to start your day. Let's bring this sensation and sense of calm with us as we take on this Tuesday. One more deep inhale. And exhale. Start to flutter your eyes open, coming back to the room, to the present moment.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Feels awesome.
Yeah, it does feel really good. Morning, Sarah.
Morning. I was thinking what we could talk about today would be this concept. Actually, you can use this as an example. It's water ball.
Coffee.
You know, the water ball, until you kind of like study it, make sense of it, look at it, you really know nothing about it other than that it holds water. But, you know, if you look at the little stamp on the bottom, we could potentially find out things about it, right?
Okay.
And it's just by observing, by taking a closer look. And I think it's a really great analogy, and I use that analogy when I'm working with groups to, you know, and it might not be the water ball, but it'll be something else. And we kind of look at, you know, maybe where it was manufactured, or why it was made, what was made for, what materials were made. And what I'm getting at is that as you look into that water ball, you can find out things about it. You can discover more about it. You might find out that there's features about the water ball or about that you know you didn't know existed before. And I think that's analogous to our mindfulness practice. You know, that's ultimately what we're doing with our own bodies, with our own emotions, with the thoughts that arise in their experiences. And we get this sense that if we take a closer look at it and we look at it without judgment, right? If you write off the water bottle as whatever, you like, it's garbage, it's not good, it's old, I don't like it, yeah, then you kind of brush it to the side and don't really take a close look at it. And you know, it still serves its function, it still does what it does, but it's you don't have the relationship with it like you understand it, right? And I think in our mindfulness practice, the fruit of this practice is that we get to take a close look for periods of time every day to just understand ourselves a little more deeply, to make sense of our emotions, to understand where they're appropriate and when they're really fruitful for us, when they're not so fruitful, or when they're not so beneficial for us. And it really needs to start with a non-judgmental observance of what's so. You know, just the way things are, not adding anything, not taking anything away, just allowing things to be as they are for yourself, right? Because in your seated practice, you're going to have moments where you feel frustrated, discouraged. You're going to think about a person or a situation in your life that's going to make you angry, you know. Notice what those things feel like, you know, notice that that's your natural inclination or your reaction to thinking about those things, because those are your natural inclination and thought process when thinking about those things outside of awareness, right, outside of your mindfulness practice. And so by seeing them, observing them, and just noticing them as they exist within the context of a formal practice or a formal setting, you get to just see, you know, make sense of, and almost make peace with in many ways, or learn to make peace with, right?
That's exactly
because
what I was thinking, just make peace and be calm, because we can't control the thoughts. They're not going to go away, and by breathing into them and just allowing us to experience them as they are, and focusing on our breath, and with a calm, non-judgmental awareness, we're able to, I guess, respond better.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can almost test things out, right? Like that's why we contemplate and think. It's like you think about an argument, you're like, oh man, I could have came up with this perfect one-liner, right? Yeah. And one of the reasons we do that is to almost arm ourselves or prepare ourselves for future events that might be similar, right? But we can do that in a context that's a lot more fruitful by thinking about, like, well, next time I see that person, or next time I'm confronted by that situation, you know, of all the options, what's the most creative, or what's the most opportunistic way of reflecting on this in a way that ultimately allows, you know, what's best for me to happen, and what's best for my community, and what's best for the world around me. And when we don't take that time then we're caught up in that situation again and almost unprepared for it. And we might very well react the same way if we're not aware that that's our gut reaction. Yeah.
What's driving it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then, you know, outside of awareness or outside of mindfulness, I can spend a lot of time just justifying and being steadfast in why I was the way that I was, and really kind of making up reasons and excuses why that's okay for me. But really, it's not all that serving. You know, it ultimately gets me into trouble. It makes me worried, or stressed out. It creates a barrier between my relationship with that person, right? If that's the issue, or a barrier between my relationship with that work or that thing, right? Sometimes it's not a person that's frustrating us. Sometimes it's a situation that we find ourselves in, or it's a circumstance that is really unavoidable or inevitable. But it's our resistance to it that's ultimately making us suffer as a result of that.
That's so true. And it's interesting because in like when I'm working with someone in a counseling setting, and this comes up a lot where, you know, I reacted this way and this person did this to me, and yeah, okay, I did this to them, but this was, you know, the real problem. And it's like, okay, well, let's take a step back and let's just pause. Like, what is the purpose of maybe you saying or doing something in response to the situation in the relationship? Like, is it benefiting you? Is it benefiting the other person? Or really, do you want to repair the relationship? Like, what is the most important? A lot of the time it's, well, the relationship is really important to me, but I also want to feel heard because they had their time. And it's like, okay, well, this is how we can respond effectively. And a lot of the time it's just maybe pausing, taking deep breaths, being calm before we respond. And especially with text message, email, Facebook, all the social media platforms that I find people getting into arguments on, it's like, pause, I want you to actually take 24 hours. And they're like, wow, you know, that saved my relationship because I didn't respond negatively. I wasn't, you know, text yelling at someone. Once I was able to calm my emotions and recollect my thoughts and be aware of, you know, why I was feeling that way, why I was thinking that, and how I could best solve the problem and repair the relationship, then it was so much more effective.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think we have this default mode of thinking that we are really the same all the time, but there's not a whole lot of evidence for that, in the sense that when you are hungry, you know that your mood is different. You know that you're not as patient, you're not as compassionate, considerate. When you're worked up, when you're angry,
Lonely, tired.
That's right.
Halt.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That's right. I love it. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yes.
These are all different states that just shift our experience of the way that we're being. And if you're not exactly sure what we mean by that, think about the last time you chose to sit on something, and how differently you viewed that in the morning, or how differently you addressed that when you gave yourself time versus responding or acting on your gut reaction. Right? There's a stark difference between the way that we are when we reflect and when we take time, when we consider the consequences of our actions, as opposed to just reacting. And you've probably heard that, you know, the difference between reacting and responding to a situation. And, you know, reacting is more, you just act without considering the consequences. Responding would be to reflect on, you know, the different opportunities and options that we have, and then appropriately addressing that in a way that's probably more beneficial for you and the parties involved, right?
Exactly. Maybe, like, too, it would help to think of a time or a situation where you found yourself very reactive. I know for myself, I'm quite reactive. First thing in the morning, I mean, you just get out of bed, you haven't really collected yourself yet, and think about if your partner was to come up and ask you to do something and you're thinking, well, I haven't even had a chance to get up, get moving. And I just noticed my response or my reaction is very different than what I would say an hour or two later if he would ask me the same question with a cup of coffee. It's so true. But I would be like, absolutely no problem, versus, are you actually asking me this right now? I don't even have time or space in my mind to think about this.
Totally.
So maybe just think of a situation, like the morning is a good example for me, but maybe you have something different where you can communicate with a partner, a friend, a family member about how they're communicating with you and how it could be dealt with a little more effectively. So just like my situation, my partner knows to wait an hour when I wake up to ask me a question. That's just kind of our general golden rule, and it really works beautifully, and kind of vice versa. So yeah, maybe you have a situation where this applies to you and you can implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. And try to observe those different contexts of when you're feeling maybe not yourself, not as patient, not as compassionate, not as kind, and they just give you the opportunity to be responsible for them if you can communicate those to the people that you're working with and spend time with, people that love you, people that you love, and we hope that you have an amazing day today.
Yeah.
Take good care of yourself.
Happy March break.
Oh yeah, happy March break.
We hope all the parents are doing well and stay
That's
safe.
right. Take time for yourself. Make sure you do
Self-care.
that. It's that much more important when we've got lots on our plate.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us today, and we hope you have a happy Tuesday.
Bye.